Hi, I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy, with another Global Real Estate School podcast. Hi, I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy for Global Real Estate School, and thanks for watching another video podcast. I'm trying to do some more video podcasts along with our regular audio podcasts, so I will try to pull the audio off these and put them on our podcast. You can download that from iTunes or Podbean. Just search for Global Real Estate School. Hey, we are also, believe it or not, on Amazon Echo. We've been on Amazon Echo for a long time, and you can search there for Global Real Estate School and listen to our podcast right from your Amazon Echo. So thanks for joining. I have a test question I thought we would do today. We've been talking about financing different types of mortgages that are out there. We've talked about an adjustable rate mortgage. We've talked about growing equity mortgage. We talked on our last video podcast, about a straight mortgage. Remember that? Interest only. You just pay interest only on a straight mortgage. A balloon mortgage, I don't know if we've talked about a balloon mortgage, but very interesting. A balloon mortgage it's similar to an adjustable rate mortgage. It has, in some ways, it can be similar to an adjustable rate mortgage. I'm going way back, dating myself back into the 1980s when interest rates first went up. But a balloon mortgage is when you take a mortgage out, let's say $100,000, and it's amortized over 30 years. You have an interest rate of 4 or 5%, and it has a 3-year balloon feature. Now, in 2007 and 8, 2009, actually a lot of these started coming due in 2008 and 9, 2010. Our mortgage crisis blew up back then. And there were a lot of people who took low interest rate loans in 2005 and 6, and these had 3, 4, 5-year balloon mortgages on them. And what happens with a balloon mortgage is that basically the note comes due. So if you have a 30-year mortgage and it has a 3-year balloon, at the end of 3 years, the lender can demand that you pay off the note. And this happened back in 08, 09, and 2010, when these folks who had taken out these low interest rate loans, they were in their dream homes. Some of them then received letters from the bank that said, your loan's due and payable. Now, what's interesting, and when I said I was dating myself back in the 1980s, I got my license in 1978 at the age of 18. Interest rates back then were 8, 9, 10%, fairly reasonable interest rates. And interest rates then, and as we know, back in 1980, 1981, skyrocketed. I mean, some of those rates went to 18 and 19%. And there was a bank in my community, never will forget this, because I remember going out to list properties, and some of the homeowners would just, it was a very tragic situation. I mean, some of them basically just cried their eyes out because they had received these letters from this lender that said, your new payment's going to be X number of dollars. And basically, all of those loans that they had issued to borrowers were balloon mortgages. They were demand notes. And so interest rates were going sky high back in the early 1980s. And what happened was, it gets a little complicated, but you need to know this for the real estate exam, because we get into this in the financing and the Federal Reserve portion. The rate that the Fed charges banks determines what local banks will charge you and I. So as the Federal Reserve kept raising the discount rate, when they kept raising interest rates, what did that happen to local lenders? They had to raise interest rates. Well, if lenders are having to borrow money at 10 or 12%, and you were only paying them 7 or 8%, there's a loss there. And because of that loss, the lender then is losing money and could go out of business. So since this local bank had what we call a demand note or a balloon note, they wanted to raise interest rates up high enough that they could make a profit. So they basically sent these letters out to local owners in my community that said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we regret to inform you, but we're raising your interest rate today. And actually, the letter, I remember this, said, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, we regret to inform you, but we're calling your note due and you have to pay off the loan balance by this date. However, we have another option for you. If you will agree to come in and sign new loan documents at this interest rate and here's your new payment, we won't call your note due. Well, some of these folks back then, they maybe had a $300 mortgage payment and all of a sudden it was going to $700 or $800. I kid you not, that's how high interest rates went. And a lot of these folks, as I mentioned, I would go out to their home and they just would tell me with broken hearts and tears in their eyes, John, we can't afford this new payment. We have to sell our home. Well, the economy was a wreck. People weren't buying real estate. It's a very, very challenging time. Now that was the 1980s. If we fast forward to 2007 and 8, as I mentioned earlier, same exact thing happened. So we had this mortgage meltdown. We had a lot of interest rates that were changing, a lot of payments that were changing, and banks were calling notes due, and some people just couldn't afford to make those new payments. So a balloon mortgage, all of that to say, if you hear the word balloon mortgage and you're at your lender's you are at your lender's desk, stay away from it. In personal example of in my own life, I had a balloon note with a friend of mine who was at a bank, and then he was terminated from the bank and went to another lending institution. The gentleman who took over for him did not want to extend the note with me. He was it was just one of those things where he worked at the bank for years and I'd always dealt with the other guy, and I think he kind of wasn't ever real crazy about me. I luckily was able to go and refinance that mortgage, but it was a balloon note. He didn't want to extend the note with me, so I had to go somewhere else and take out a mortgage loan on that. And it was his loss because there were lots of people I could have taken back to that bank for home loans. And I did not want to put them in the same kind of situation that I was put in. So, I just explained to them that they needed to really shop around and look for a lender who would be willing to offer them a loan that was not a balloon mortgage or a demand note. So keep that in mind. I was going to give you a test question today, and I got to talking about balloon mortgages, but that's okay. I think it's good for us to study that. So we probably will just wrap it up here. But remember that a balloon mortgage is going to come due and payable at some time. And some lenders might allow you to continue on with that balloon mortgage, but they're going to rewrite the note and they're going to raise the interest rate up, and your payment could go up a lot. So it can be very, very it can be a very scary thought and very dangerous. So I would encourage you to stay away from those. Well, gosh, I was going to give you a test question. I guess I could probably very quickly could. And it was about a mortgagor's right to reestablish ownership after delinquency. What is that called? Well, it's called your equity right of redemption. Equity right of redemption. There's two types of redemption, and I'm going to talk about both of those on our next podcast, and we'll talk about this test question in more detail. But for today, there we go. For today, don't forget, a balloon mortgage is going to come due and payable at some time in the future. As always, thanks for watching this podcast. Check us out at globalrealestateschool.com. They've got some great resources for you, regardless of what state you are in. And we are going to do a study session this week at Help Me Pass the Real Estate Exam. I will be posting more details on that for all of my students. It's live streaming, it's free, but I'm going to invite anybody that wants to join us to do so. So be on the lookout for information for that. Have a great Sunday, everyone. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you for listening to the podcast for Global Real Estate School. I'm John Mayfield, the Real Estate Tech Guy. Go out and make it a great day.